Hello everyone, good to see you again. In this video, I'm going to introduce several traditional metrics to measure a firm's profitability. Are you guys ready? Then let's get started. In the previous lecture, you learned that CRM is not only about enhancing customer loyalty, but also about profitability. CRM is a process to identify who is going to be a profitable customer and to find a way to interact with the profitable customer. Of course, loyalty is a key factor that generates profit. Rachel, Markey, and Hopton surveyed managers about what they believe. From the survey, they found that long-term or loyal customers generally show that they spend more over time. It is easier to serve them than not loyal customers, and they tend to generate word of mouth more, and they tend to buy premium products. This implies that loyal customers generate more revenue and less cost, leading to high profits. However, Rachel, Markey, and Hopton's study was based on a survey about managers' beliefs, not on actual profit data. That is, their results are just suggestions or hypotheses which are not empirically proven. So, Rachel and Kumar tested the hypothesis with actual data. This graph shows the results. First, x-axis stands for loyalty and y-axis stands for lifetime profit. Rachel and Kumar scattered the customers in their data on this plot and found a very strong correlation between loyalty and lifetime profit. In the graph, most customers are plotted in this gray area, meaning that loyal customers gave high profit and not loyal customers made just low profit. So it seems that Rachel's hypotheses are true. However, it is not always true. In addition to the customers in this gray area, there is another segment of customers who are loyal but less profitable in this red circle. So in this red circle, customers are loyal. Oh, I need a pen. Loyal, but less profitable. Furthermore, there is another segment of customers who gave high profits, even though their loyalty is low, like this blue circle. So the people in this blue circle, just provide very high profit, but their loyalty level is low. This study implies that loyalty is not sufficient to gauge profitability. Of course, loyalty is an important factor, but there also exist short-term or not loyal customers who are profitable, which means loyalty is not the only one path to profitability. And there also exist loyal but not profitable customers, which means loyalty does not always drive profit. Therefore, as this study suggests, firms need to obtain information directly on customers' profitability. Then, how to measure the profitability? In this and the next lectures, I'm going to introduce several basic metrics. First, let's get started with the traditional metrics. The first one is market share. You may be very familiar with this metric. Market share is the proportion of a firm in sales in a market, so it is a percentage metric. The higher the market share, the more sales the firm achieved. That is, it is generally expected to have high revenue and profit with a high market share. So, market share can be a good indicator of profitability of a firm. The computation of market share is very simple. For example, let's say sales of all firms in a market is $1 billion, and company A sales is 200 million, and B sales is 700 million. Then, market share of A is 200 million divided by 1 billion, which equals 20%. Market share of B is, in the same manner, 70%. Sometimes, sales is measured in volume, that is the number of units sold, instead of dollar value. Choice of the measure between volume and dollar value can be very critical because it can dramatically change market share values. Here's an example. This figure shows smartphone market shares of big three companies in the fourth quarter of 2017. The left bar shows shipment shares, which are the market shares in units shipped during the quarter, whereas the right one displays revenue shares, which are the market shares in dollar values of the units shipped. In the shipment shares, Apple just takes about 20% of the market. However, it takes more than the half of the market in revenues. The reason is that, as you know well, Apple's products are super expensive. In the fourth quarter of 2017, the average selling price of Apple's iPhones is about $800, whereas that of the competitors is around $200. This implies, especially if prices of products vary across firms in a market, we have to carefully choose the measure to compute market shares. For example, when you want to look at massing of Android and iOS, market shares in volume should be used. But if we want to see financial performance of the smartphone companies, we should choose dollar values to compute the shares. Market share is a common measure of short-term performance of a company. It is usually computed during a quarter or a year. And it does not provide any individual customer level information. For example, consider two cases. Case one, there's only one person who spent $10,000. Case two, there are 1,000 people who spent $10. At the customer level, the value of the person spending $10,000 is much greater than that of the person spending just $10, right? So the customer value in case one is much greater than case two. But the sales in total is identical between these two cases, $10,000. This means market share is also identical between these two cases, and it cannot reflect the huge difference in customer value between these two cases. Okay, next, sales growth. You may also be familiar with this metric. It shows how much sales have grown during a given time period. For example, let's say sales in 2017 is 1 billion and it increased by 0.2 billion in 2018. Then the growth rate of the sales over the year is 20%, which is the ratio of incremental sales over the sales at the beginning. Sales growth is a good indicator of the healthiness of a firm's business. This figure shows the sales growth of iPhones during the last 10 years. The line graph displays iPhone revenues in each of the years, and the bar chart shows the growth rate computed from the revenues. And as you can see, during the first 3 years, from 2010 to 2012, sales growth was very, very high, about 92%, 84%, and 70%. During this period, Apple launched iPhone 3GS, 4, and 4S, which opened the era of smartphones. And in 2015, sales growth was also high, about 52%. During this period, Apple launched iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, which were the first iPhone models with big screen sizes. So, sales growth clearly shows firm's success on business, which is a positive sign of good profitability. However, as well as market share, sales growth does not provide any individual customer level information. Because sales growth is also based on overall sales of a firm or a brand like market share, it still cannot distinguish between the two cases we discussed with the market shares. Okay, now let's do actually this. Here's an instruction. Please pause this video now and solve the following exercise with a scratch paper. You may use any calculator you have to do this. All right, then here are correct answers for market shares. So pause the video again and check your answers. All right, then here are correct answers for sales growth. So pause the video again and check your answers. All right, I believe all you do this exercise very well. Then let's move on to the next. Now, I'm going to talk about a series of metrics related to customer acquisition and retention. The traditional metrics, market share and sales growth, indicate a firm's overall performance, but they cannot give you any individual customer level information. Acquisition and retention metrics are different from those traditional metrics in that they evaluate each marketing campaign that a firm actually did in the market. For example, acquisition and retention metrics answer these types of questions. How many people were acquired by the campaign? How many people do still remain as our as our customers over time after they were acquired? For your better understanding, let me give you a hypothetical anecdote. Suppose that there is a new gym in Dublin, Ohio, and it sent a promotion flyer to Dublin residents like this picture. And suppose that grown-up population in Dublin, Ohio is 50K for simplicity. And let's say that the total cost of this campaign was $5K. The promotion campaign was successful. After the promotion, 500 new members signed up, but many of them quitted so quickly. 3 months later, 100 people remained, and 6 months later, only 25 members remained. Okay, yeah, just very simple anecdote. Then, now let's evaluate this campaign. First, start with acquisition. Researchers usually use two metrics to evaluate acquisition performance of a campaign. One is acquisition rate, and the other is acquisition cost. Acquisition rate means the proportion of acquired members out of the people the campaign targeted. So here, the population target is 50K, and out of them, 500 people signed up. So the acquisition rate is given by 500 divided by 50K, which equals 1%. It seems not that high, but when we consider the cost part, this campaign was successful. We usually compute acquisition cost to evaluate the cost part. It is given by the total cost of the campaign divided by the number of acquired members. In this case, the acquisition cost is $5K divided by 500 people, which equals $10 per member, per new member. Definitely, membership fee is greater than $10, right? So we can say that this campaign was successful. That is, it made additional profit. However, many of the new members seem to quit so quickly. And how to quantify this? We usually compute retention rate and defection rate. These two metrics describe the same thing. The difference is which group of people the metric focuses on. First, retention rate. It focuses on the members still alive. At the beginning, there had been 500 new members, but only 100 members were still there 3 months later. That is 100 divided by 500. So only 20% of members are still alive. This is the retention rate for the first 3 months. Defection rate focuses on members who left during the period. There were only 100 members 3 months later, so the rest, 400 people, left during the period. That is 400 divided by 500, which equals 80%. So 80% of members left, and this is the defection rate for the first 3 months. Because the sum of the number of members left and the number of members still alive is the total number of members acquired, so the defection rate is always given by 100% minus the retention rate. And we can quantify what happened for the next 3 months in the same manner. At the beginning of the second quarter, there had been 100 members. 3 months later, 75 members left and only 25 members were alive. So the retention rate during this period is 25 divided by 100, which equals 25%. And the defection rate is 75%. In addition, researchers sometimes use survival rate to evaluate the retention performance of the marketing campaign for the entire time period. Out of the initially acquired members, 500, only 25 members are still alive 6 months later. So the survival rate for the entire time period is given by 25 divided by 500, which equals 5%. And here are formal definitions of acquisition rate and acquisition cost. You can also find these definitions in our textbook. So please read the textbook carefully for your better understanding. It would be better for you to go back to the Zim example with these equations and try to plug the numbers in the example into the equations. As I mentioned in the example, the acquisition rate and acquisition cost can be used as the very first indicator of the success of a marketing campaign. The difference between two metrics is what the metric focuses on. The acquisition rate indicates the effectiveness of the campaign. In our example, the acquisition rate was 1%. But what if it was 0.1%? 0.1% of acquisition rate means only 50 people out of 50K residents in Dublin, Ohio signed up. In this case, the campaign was not effective. To low acquisition rate usually appears when the target was incorrectly selected. For example, suppose that the gym promotion flyer was sent to a nursing village where most residents need just light exercise, not strenuous workout for their health. Then, only few people are interested in and signed up the gym, leading to a low acquisition rate. And what about the acquisition cost? The acquisition cost indicates efficiency of the campaign. In the example, the acquisition cost was just $10 per new member. But what if it was $100? Then it could be greater than the membership fee and may lead to losses instead of profits. And here are formal definition of retention rate, defection rate, and survival rate. Again, please read the textbook carefully for your better understanding with those definitions. If necessary, it would be better to plug the numbers in the example, the gym example, into those definitions. Retention, defection, and survival rate indicate how well offered product and or service is performing over time. If the gym program was really good, most of the members would keep using the gym over time. However, only 20% or 25% of members remain during a quarter, implying that the quality of the new gym's program is not that good. This retention performance can be quantified in another way, average lifetime duration. Average lifetime duration, sometimes called average tenure, measures how long customers used or have used the product or service after they were acquired. To compute the average lifetime duration, researchers usually assume that the retention rate is constant over time. This assumption is reasonable when a product or service's quality does not change over time. If the quality doesn't change, retention rates are usually stable over time. So this assumption is reasonable. With this assumption, we can simply compute the average lifetime value from the retention rate. Suppose that retention rate is 80%, very high. And then one period later, 80% of initially acquired customers are still alive. That's the definition of retention rate, right? And the rest, 20% left during the period. Those customers who left used the product or service for only one time period, right? And one more time period later, 80% of customers who are alive at the beginning of the period are still alive. That is 80% of 80% of initially acquired customers. And the rest, 20% of 80% left during this time period. Those customers who left in this period used the product or service for 2 time periods, right? And let's go to the next time period. One more period later, 80% of 80% of 80% of initially acquired customers are still alive in the same manner. And the rest, 20% of 80% left during this period. Those customers who left in this period used the product or service for 3 time periods. And just do this again and again and again and again and again, then we can have the average lifetime duration by calculating the sum of proportion times lifetime. And this form simply reduces 1 over 100% minus the given retention rate. In this case, retention rate is 80%. So 1 over 100% minus 80%, which equals 1 over 20%, that is 5. So that 5 is the average lifetime duration. This means, on average, a customer keeps using the product or service for 5 time period since she was acquired. And this is the formal formula of average lifetime duration given a constant retention rate. For example, with 75% of annual retention rate, the average lifetime duration is given by 1 over 100% minus 75%, which equals 4 years. So far, you've learned acquisition and retention metrics. Those metrics are always calculated for group or cohort of customers. And typically, those metrics are computed on a campaign-by-campaign basis, meaning that they are used to evaluate the performance of a marketing campaign. So, like traditional metrics, acquisition and retention metrics still cannot monitor on individual customer level profitability. Okay, now let me wrap up. In this video, you've learned that loyalty is not sufficient to gauge profitability. It is necessary to directly measure the customer profitability. And traditional metrics, market share and sales growth, those metrics indicate overall performance, not an individual customer's contribution. Next, acquisition metrics evaluate the performance of a marketing campaign by customer cohort, not by individual customer. And then, how to measure or how to quantify individual customers' profitability. And we will learn about it in the next lecture. All right, then have a nice day and see you soon. Bye-bye.